From Columbia in high definition, this is WIS News 10 Awareness.
It was 4 months into the year when Columbia saw its first homicide of 2013. Since April, there's been a rash of shootings, some of them deadly. Just 2 weeks ago, gun violence hit one of Columbia's entertainment districts, 5 Points, and now many are looking for answers. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. In Columbia alone, 6 lives cut short and many others forever changed this year by gun violence. July 1st, a woman was killed overnight as she worked at a bakery. A week later, a 4-year-old girl was hit by a stray bullet as she watched cartoons in her living room. July 20th, a mother of 2 was killed after officers say a documented gang member fired into a group of people out on McDuffie Street. 4 days later, a father holding his toddler died from a gunshot wound at the Deer Park Apartments. And on October 13th, a USC student was hit by a stray bullet as she waited for a cab in 5 Points. She is now paralyzed from the waist down. While recent numbers from the Columbia Police Department show violent crime is down, still the community is trying to find out why violence seems to be up and what law enforcement is doing to stop it. CPD says it is working on several solutions to this disturbing trend, including holding several press conferences addressing public safety. Here with more on the Columbia Police Department's response is Interim Police Chief Ruben Santiago. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate you having us.
Now, according to the police department, violent crime and crime in general is down all across the city.
Right. Well, it's hard to say what the numbers reflect as far as facts when you have victims, true victims. I mean, we're talking about individuals whose lives has changed. You know, we're talking about families forever going to miss a loved one. And it's these senseless acts, specifically gun violence and gang activity, that's causing it.
And so when we look at 5 Points as an example, what strategies and approaches are you currently implementing that you think are working? Right.
Well, and that's what we're looking and evaluating now. I mean, since I became the interim chief, we've really gone back to basics. That foot patrol, the community policing aspect, but making sure we couple that with the enhanced ability to crunch that data so that we can take those individuals off the street faster. If you look at what the criminals are, we have 10% of our repeat offenders cause over 60% of our crimes. These are those individuals that are shooting and killing people and hurting them. And then when you tie in the gang factor, those are the issues that we predominantly see not only in 5 Points but citywide.
Okay, and then so what needs to be done differently?
Well, there's a couple things that we need to do. You know, law enforcement is one aspect of the solution. We really need to bring everyone to the table when we're talking about crime prevention. When you talk about what constitutes crime, we actually have a diagram. It's called the crime triangle. It's made up of one side of being opportunities, other side is ability, and then the desire. Now, law enforcement, we can affect opportunities and abilities, but when someone who's so malicious and bent on doing something, has that strong desire, that's where you see crime exist. And so fundamentally the strategies that we are doing are working. That's why we see the crime reduction specifically in 5 Points but around the city, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And those are the things that we're going to need to speed up, build better partnerships, and look for more ways that we can get rid of crime faster.
And law enforcement is one component, and you mentioned some of these other partnerships, but what about the community and its involvement?
Well, education and awareness has been a very key factor in being successful. That means letting people know what's happening in our communities. The media has changed a lot in the last 15 years. In the last 2 years, it's really changed. So we're able to get information so much quicker, but at the same time, when we talk about gangs and we talk about the acts of violence, we want to make sure that we have solutions. So when we talk about what we're doing, we also want to have the answers readily available to them. So when we see these acts of violence occur, we want to have solutions. And that's why you're seeing those enhanced patrols in 5 Points. I've put more officers when it comes to foot patrols out there. Our PACE team, when it comes to communicating with the public, has been instrumental. And so that education and awareness really peaks in when we're talking about bringing those community leaders, those government officials, those schools, the law enforcement, people who really have an vested interest in stakeholders when it comes to keeping our community safe.
And some possible solutions that have been floated out there by community members and other leaders, you know, having gun-sniffing dogs and having, you know, increasing the patrols and maybe having a dress code, particularly in 5 Points. Are these some possible solutions?
Well, there are so many possible solutions, and we're entertaining every single one of those as viable ways that we can keep our community safe. When you talk specifics to being able to detect a gun on a person, I don't believe canines, our canines right now are in a position to do that because, you know, our dogs are trained to apprehend and also do narcotics work. We are looking at those those gun sniffing dogs, and that is a capability out there. What we're trying to do is figure out a way that, since it's so new, that we can incorporate that into our philosophies here at CPD. And
going back to partnerships, how is the Richland County Sheriff's Department factoring into some of the strategies that you're trying to implement?
Yeah. Well, the City of Columbia, most of City of Columbia is in Richland County, and I talk with the sheriff, and we communicate on a very regular basis with Sheriff Leon Lott. You know, as you know, I spent most of my career at the Sheriff's Department, and so my philosophies are the exact same when it comes to crime prevention. Sheriff Lott is very big into crime prevention and working with the communities. Their gang unit is a very sophisticated gang unit. I was a supervisor for that gang unit for many years. And I bring those attributes to our department as well. And CPD, we have a 6-person gang unit, and we already have made it where we're working together on these issues. Crime and criminals don't know the boundaries of where CPD starts or where Richland County starts or even across the river. So it's going to be a collaborative effort for us to be successful.
And obviously there are some hot spots that you're targeting, but your approach really is citywide, correct?
It is. You know, it's an unfortunate situation that things happen in 5 Points, and I know that's one of the heart of the city's areas when it comes to hospitalities. But if you look at our entire city, there are so many communities and families who have been victimized that you never hear about. And those are the ones that really break my heart the most. It's very unfortunate, especially with you know, Martha, but I look at all the other victims. You talked about the different shootings and the murders that we've had. I'd look at those individuals and I think, what would I feel like if I didn't get that attention? And so first and foremost, I don't want our department to ever be perceived as neglecting certain parts of the city. And so I do look at the city as a whole when it comes to our strategies for crime prevention.
Okay. Interim Chief Ruben Santiago, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Coming up.
That call wasn't what I was expecting. It was one of the hardest things in my life I ever had to face.
That was the day Stan and Annie Pelzer learned their daughter Deandra was gunned down outside her apartment. Ahead, hear from them on how life's changed, including keeping Deandra's memory alive through her 2 children. Plus, the community responds. In the early hours of July 20th, police say a gunman fired shots into a crowd on McDuffie Street. A bullet intended for someone else ended the life of 24-year-old Deandra Pelzer. 2 suspects face murder charges in Deandra's death. Still, that shooting left 2 toddlers without their mother. Today, her parents are raising Deandra's 2 children while finding time to mourn their loss.
If you're happy and you know, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know, and your face will show to show. If you're happy and you know, stomp your feet.
Playtime in the Pelzer household.
I'm just doing whatever I can do. Just one day at a time, really.
Annie tries to keep smiles on her grandkids' faces while she still grieves the untimely loss of their mother, her daughter.
I have my moments, basically probably every week. Leaning on God, praying, you know I can overcome anything. I'm a strong woman. And I think this is just gonna take a little time, but I really miss her.
Columbia police say Deandra Pelzer was a bystander to gang violence. The stray bullet was meant for someone else, but nevertheless left 2 children without a mother.
They are here every day for the rest of their lives. And you know, my day usually starts about maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, getting up, taking a shower, cleaning my house, waiting on them to wake up, preparing my day for them, basically.
Annie has always been a permanent fixture in the lives of Michaela and Austin.
Mom! Yes! Oh, wow!
But it's been a big transition, starting with telling the 2-year-old children their mother is not coming home.
And one day I just actually told her, she's dead. She's with the angels. And she'll say something like, well, can I be with the angels? And I say, yeah, you'll be with the angels one day and you'll see her again. But she asks about her every day.
Stan and Annie Pelzer join us now with more on how their lives have changed since July. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Well, this is a harsh reality that both of you deal with every single day. What has changed for you guys?
Well, we're really starting a whole new life with these kids. It's something beautiful. Even though their mom gone, they still here. And I just love them to death.
And Stanley, you told me that every day you see Deandra in those 2 children.
Every day. They always, just that smile on their face, the way they make me feel. It is.
And the 2 of them, 2 years old, 9 months apart. So they're a handful, needless to say.
Yes.
But still a joy you didn't realize you'd have to be taking on now that your daughter is gone.
Exactly.
But I was with you the other day as you were making them lunch and you were playing with them and reading with them, and it seems like it brings you so much joy. But you said you still have those moments where you think about your daughter.
It does, because Deandra was my friend, one of my best friends. I miss Deandra dearly. I know since she's been gone, I've went through many changes as well. I don't care to share it at this moment, but with the good Lord's help, He will, see me through this.
Right. And you were mentioning that there's some family tension sometimes with this, and just trying to understand and grieve, right?
Yes, it is. A lot of tension. Sometimes everyone is just angry at each other. There are times when, no one says anything to each other. Everyone is feeling, sad. And why did this have to happen? But of course, we cannot question God.
And now when you look and you see other shootings that have happened since before your daughter's murder, since your daughter's murder has happened, and how does that make you feel, Stanley? How do you process all of that?
It's just hard to see this stuff keep happening week after week. These guys, a lot of these people that do this stuff, they seem like they just get a slap on the wrist and they walk around smiling after they done take somebody's life. I don't understand how they just do that and just walk out there like nothing happened. It's rough out here now. You gotta be aware now and treasure every minute you got with your kids, your family member. You better cherish it, because you don't know what might happen the next day. It's hard. It's real hard.
Well, our prayers certainly with your family are out there with your family. And Annie, you were telling me earlier that you see all these shootings happen, but you wonder when the change is actually going to take place.
Yes, I'm wondering. It makes me angry. It makes me sad, because some crimes are treated different from other crimes. Not so much of the crime being treated different, but the communities. Like my heart really goes out to Martha Childress and her family. My heart really goes out to her. But at the end of the day, Martha is recovering. I will never see my daughter again. And it hurts me to think that some communities are not accepting that, because I don't know if it plays a deal in it being a racial thing. I hope it's not that. I want to say that, but that's just the way that I feel. But my daughter will never be forgotten. Never.
Well, I spoke with Mayor Benjamin earlier a little bit about the city's response to the citywide crime, not just certain areas. Here's what he had to say.
We've got to create an environment where our young people know that they have opportunities to do great things in this world, that God has big plans for them, and that the way to success is not through gang affiliation. We've got to make it as uncomfortable and unpleasant and downright illegal to be a member of a gang. So it's important that people know that we've been working on a number of these things for quite some time, and our police officers have been working their tails off to make the city safe. There are always flashpoint issues and major tragic events that brings the community's attention back to the issue of how we work together to fight crime. And I will tell you the event that we hosted last week in 5 Points, in which we had made the point to have pastors and community leaders from all across the city there and participating in that event, showed that there's a collective spirit here in Columbia in which all citizens are sick and tired of violent crime and are willing to do their part. Both the public sector, the private sector, the faith community, and everyone's willing to step up and make sure we beat back this demon.
So Stan and Annie, well, first, Ms. Baskins, thank you for joining us. Stan and Annie, we appreciate you helping the community to understand your story a little bit better. And as you heard the mayor say, they're trying to target crime all over the city. And it's not just one person's role, but it's a community's role. So thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Henry Baskins, you're joining us now. You are the Executive Director of the Greater Columbia Community Relations Council. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you heard Ms. Pelzer talk about unfairness, so to speak, when certain crimes happen. And it is a perception. I've had many conversations with people about racial tension, maybe perhaps from some of this violence, and that when one ethnicity, when violence happens in one community, the response is not quite the same. It's not something that people always want to talk about on camera, but it's a reality. Some people feel like this 5 Point shooting has gotten much more attention and call for action than, let's say, Deandra Pelzer's murder. What is the community's response? What should it be to all these shootings?
Well, you mentioned that it is a perception in the community. It is the perception in the African American community. My heart goes out to these grandparents and other people who've lost their children, but when they see people gather around calling for change, and it's not in their community, nothing was said in their community, it upsets them. Unfortunately, what that does is put a racial undertone to what's going on. And we know criminals aim in every neighborhood in our community. It's not by race. It's happening all over. And we can't let this perception divide us and therefore take the focus of trying to bring Columbia and Richland County back to where it should be, a great place to live, work, and do business.
Right. And so there are certain things that we all need to do in order to help keep our streets safe. It's not just on the shoulders of law enforcement or on the shoulders of the mayor or other city leaders or even the faith community. So can you talk a little bit about what we all have to do?
I think we need to step up as individual citizens. We all need to make our voices heard. Get involved. When something happens in your neighborhood, get involved. Whether you get involved at the church level, using churches at night to bring the community together to talk about actions, policing your neighborhood, letting the police know what goes on in your neighborhood, coming together when community leaders call a forum or call folks together to talk about what's going on, you be there to add your input. It's going to take every last person in the community to put a stop to what a few in the community is doing.
Exactly. So we all need to be very active, and the burden is on us, on everybody to respond. Well, thank you so much, Ms.
You're quite welcome.
Getting troubled youth back on track before it's too late. When awareness returns, the Richland County Sheriff's Department programs that arm parents with the tools to help get their children on a solid foundation.
It's not a nice place to be, that when that jail cell door closes and your freedom's taken away from you, it's not like being at home.
A night in jail for some of Richland County's troubled teens. Instead of being punished for a crime, it's used as a deterrent to turn around the lives of teens who were once headed down the wrong path. That program, the READY program, is just one tool Richland County uses to help kids build a solid foundation. Joining us now is Lieutenant Wendell Harris, who works with the Youth Services Division of the Richland County Sheriff's Department. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's first talk about the READY program. We just saw some video of that. Describe that program for us.
Wow, that's an awesome program, and that's educating deterrent our youth. The program been in existence since 2009. The sheriff had a vision that he wanted to be able to take the streets back, but also have a place for the kids to have a shock program where the kids will be able to see and be able to give up that control that they thought they had. So it's an overnight program. It's been nationally aired 3 times. So we believe in it. The kids get to go down, they meet inmates, they spend the night, and they get to really see what life in jail would be about.
Right, and they're broken down a little bit so that they realize that they're not always in control.
It's in their face. We have inmates doing presentation, Sergeant Walls, investigator, and all those investigators that work with him, and Captain McRoberts, they do an awesome job with holding our kids accountable. And
you also have Camp Lot.
Oh, Camp Lot is awesome. The sheriff had a vision. We put it into action June of this past year, and it was awesome. The kids go out for 3.5 days. We take the males out first, then we bring the females out the second half of the week. We load them up on the Richland County bus. We take them out to the Youth Challenge Camp out at Camp McCrady's, and they spend 3.5 days going through physical PT, life skills, team building. I mean, there's little sleep and a lot of physical attributes.
And we talked to a few parents when Camp Lot happened this past June, and they said they were very grateful for this program.
The Bible says it takes a village to raise a child. So at this point, this is a village.
I've seen where kids go down the bad road and where it ends up. And I'm not going to have that for my boy.
I want him to be a productive member of society is my ultimate goal.
We also have arbitration, you were mentioning to me.
Yes, the arbitration program was created in 2007. It's in collaboration with the Department of Juvenile Justice. Lieutenant Kim Myers runs that program. She has over 50 arbitrators involved. And it's an extensive program to where the sheriff wants where the kids get a misdemeanor charge. They're able to go through an extensive package to where if they complete within 90 days, counseling, training, field trips, report writing, it's awesome. Community service, giving back. They have to give back and do the restitution, and it's an awesome program where the kids' record will be cleared.
Well, and finally we have the Next Step program, which I think is a pretty neat idea because it's not just an overnight program, it is so much more intensive and comprehensive, and you work with both the parents and the kids.
Yes, the Next Step program is a program that the sheriff created in 2012. We've met with over 1,850 families today. Next Step program is to empower the parents and the families of all youth, and regardless of what stage of life they're in. And how we do that, we do it through intense workshops. Then we do one-on-one follow-ups. We have mediation training in the office. They have to do continuous check-ins. They have to check in. The youth have to check in with the school resource officer 5 days a week, and we get a follow-up report every Friday from that. And the most important part is the family returns every 30 to 45 days for the next step to figure out where do we go from there.
Right, and you can see on the screen we had some topics that you all talk about, why my child acts this way. So really great tools to help parents and children, the whole family. And there's a quote that you have on the brochure for Next Step that I think is just so powerful. It says, "What life means to us is not determined not so much by what life brings to us as by the attitude we bring to life. Not so much by what happens to us as by our reaction to what happens to us." That's Lewis Dunnington. So it's all about our positive reaction and response to our circumstances.
And yes, it is. First of all, we have to understand that Sheriff Leon Lott has such a passion, a genuine passion for the community and our families and our youth to see them achieve and be successful at whatever it takes. And so he believes it in two parts, that there's a diversionary side of it, which means once the kid has already stepped into the system, but he also believes in the intervention side. So you see the two parts where we believe in the holistic side. We're going to work with the whole house, the whole family, but we believe that regardless of what you've been dealt with, the sheriff believes that it's what you do about it. It's the attitude that we take with it. Okay. So the sheriff's department has a positive attitude on going forward.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be right back. Curbing gun violence does not start at the law enforcement level. It starts at the home. We must teach our children to value their own lives and the lives of others. Today, we started the discussion on gun violence awareness, and you can continue it around your kitchen tables, in Sunday school, or whether or not you know your children are listening. Also, go to our Facebook page to share your thoughts on cutting gun violence. We would like to thank the Columbia Police Department, the Richland County Sheriff's Department, the Pelzer Family, and the Greater Columbia Community Relations Council. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.